NFL Draft Bible on location.
You know, Mike has made tremendous strides, particularly in this past year, not only from a skill set standpoint, but I think from a maturity standpoint.
Arizona Cardinals GM Steve Keim, podium A. Arizona Cardinals GM Steve Keim, podium A.
Thank you. Michael's made a lot of strides, maturity-wise as well. Just his work ethic, his passion for the game. I think he took it to another level, and I think you saw that in his play this year. So he's done a fantastic job. He's a guy that we'll look at addressing here moving forward. I would say no deal is imminent, but you know, he's a guy that certainly has done a nice job for us. Chris Johnson is another guy who, you know, one of our one-year deal players that came in and, you know, looking back and thinking about when I watched him on tape in August, felt like he had some gas left in the tank. And you know, I don't know if there was a perception about Chris, but the one thing that I will say is he was a great teammate. He was a great person in our locker room, which again, sometimes with these free agents, you don't know what kind of people they are. Chris was a guy that was a team guy, quiet and reserved, yet at the same time still has the passion for the game. So Chris is a guy that we'll certainly look at, and we'll talk to his representatives this week. Well, you know, there's always, you know, it's offensive linemen, you know, as a whole are hard to find. I mean, you look across in the National Football League and you see, you know, some talented players, yet at the same time, there's some parity. There's some guys who are overachievers, tough guys that have to have certain intangibles, whether it's their smarts, their passion for the game, their toughness. But this group is solid. I mean, I don't know if it's any different from years past. There's your, you know, 3 or 4 top guys, and then there's the guys who are going to end up playing in the league. Again, supply and demand at that position is extremely tough because, again, so many qualities to play that position have to come into play. Again, your ability to learn and process information is critical for an offensive lineman. Yet at the same time, you have to be a big man with a certain skill set, which, again, is hard to find. You know, I think so. I think the one thing we wanted to do when I took over 3 years ago was to eliminate dead money, and I think we've done a good job for the most part eliminating dead money, and that kind of goes back to my philosophy with some of the one-year contracts and not getting in a position where you're being so active in free agency and guaranteeing large numbers. Because when you get in that position, you have cap casualties, you have dead money that follows. And I think it's one of those situations where, you know, you always have to be in a win now mode. You know, you can never say, okay, we're building for the future. Fans don't want to hear that. Organizations don't want to hear that. Our expectations are to win and to win now. So again, to me, you have to draft well and you have to supplement through free agency. It's a difficult task because you have to have a tough balance. But at the same time, in free agency, it can be fool's gold. I mean, you see these guys, why do they hit the market, number one? And number two, the money that comes attached to those players. So my philosophy has always been to somewhat set back, let the market play itself out, and see where the numbers go, and find guys who are the right people, the right passionate players to fill in your locker room. Well, you know, I think when, you know, you talk about spread offenses, you know, the way we play the game in the National Football League, it's always a projection. Anytime you're evaluating college players, regardless of system, it's a projection. But when you're watching guys who are offensive linemen and they've never been in a three-point stance, or a quarterback who's never been in a huddle, or been under center, you have to project, and that's part of the business. That's what makes it fun, difficult, and challenging. So I would say this, you know, it is tough because you don't see as much run game stuff, taking on the ISO, fullbacks involved. I mean, all those things are tough to see. But it's what makes this job fun and challenging. Is again, it's a projection-based business. Well, I think I think once you get better as a roster, when you have 53 players that you think are talented. For example, this year we took DJ Humphreys, who is an extremely talented player. Yet at the same time, he was a third-year junior coming out of the University of Florida, and Bobby Massey was a guy who we've put a lot of time and effort into, and he played good football this year. DJ was a guy that we looked at as a long-term solution, not as a short-term fix. And I think sometimes in the draft, you have to look at it that way. Not everybody's going to contribute. Our second, third, fourth, and fourth-round pick, they all started for us. When you look at Marcus Golden, you look at David Johnson, you look at Rodney Gunter from Delaware State. All those guys started for us as rookies. So when you look at the draft, you say, oh, well, maybe they missed on the first-round pick. Not so fast. There are some guys who take some time to develop, and you have to keep in mind that that it's a long-term situation, not short-term. Absolutely. I mean, I think there's no question when you look at 1 through 53, you have to feel like you have guys in position who can play now. Yet at the same time, Bobby Massey's about to hit free agency, and our mindset was, depending on how things went with Bobby, we had an answer to that position. Well, Andre's a dynamic player. There's no doubt about that. Yet at the same time, it's no secret he's got to stay healthy. And I've told Andre that personally. I mean, we love his skill set, but it's no secret that the guy has had durability problems. And as an organization, you have expectations, and if a guy doesn't fulfill those expectations, you may have to move on. Hopefully, Andre's not in a situation where we have to move on. I'd love to keep Andre long term, yet at the same time, he's got to stay healthy. And he's got, again, a particular skill set. I don't know that he's we've talked over and over about him being a 20 or 25 touch guy a game. I don't know if he can do that. He's got to prove that he can do that. Certainly, David Johnson is a guy who came in and shown that he can do that. I think as a GM, you're always looking for the future. I mean, you look at the final 4 quarterbacks in this year's season, and Carson, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and you look at their ages. Supply and demand is an issue with that position. And finding that position is the hardest job for a general manager to have. I mean, there's no secret that we're always trying to look for the next guy. To be in a situation like Green Bay was years ago when they took Aaron after Brett Favre was their starter, that's obviously the ideal situation, but how many times are you sitting in the 20s where you can take a guy that you see as the future? I think it's, when you evaluate that position over the years that I've looked at quarterbacks, it's one of those things where when you see a quarterback that you fall in love with, a guy that is a franchise player, in your heart, in your gut, that this is the guy. Then everybody else is, it's so hard to find that position. You want them to be the guy. You see things you like on tape. His character is good. All the dots connect, yet at the same time, you're not convinced that this is the guy. And if you miss on a player and you take him high, it sets you back 3 or 4 years. So again, that's a difficult position to work in. Been good. He's been working with Brett Fisher in Phoenix, and so far, every indication is that Tyron's doing a fantastic job in his rehab.
Building on Doug's question, how about tight end or different skill sets? 50% of teams are going to use tight end.
Yeah, I mean, anymore you don't talk about tight end. It's either, you're looking at either a Y or an F, and that's the way we talk about him. You're either an inline guy that usually lacks the skill set to be a pass catcher, that's a tough overachiever, that's physical at the point of attack, and then you have the guy who can flex, is essentially a big wide receiver. So the guy who can do it all generally doesn't exist anymore. I mean, there are a few guys that can do both, but very rarely. And the perception around the league is when you see some of these tight ends that are great pass catchers, people think they're functional in the run game. When you watch tape, they're really not. You see guys get, at the point of attack, having a very difficult time. Just the guys I've seen so far look solid. Again, pass rushers are difficult to find. quarterback, left tackle, and pass rusher to me are the hardest 3 positions to find. And it just comes down, in my opinion, it comes down to only so many people are walking the earth with the skill set to be big enough, athletic enough, and to have the traits to be able to rush the passer. And that's why generally either they get drafted higher or they get overpaid in free agency. JJ? Oh man, there's no question. You talk about Bruce Arians and his style, which is attack the vertical game. You know, you have Michael and Larry, which are your big physical receivers, and you have John Brown and JJ, who are can either play in the slot or can be perimeter threats down the field, and that's what Bruce loves. Bruce loves speed, and with our style of offense, I think there's no question that JJ can continue to improve. JJ's very fast. You know, he was a guy that we felt was worth taking a shot at. 23 sacks in 2 years. He's long, he's athletic, he had a really nice workout for us. Looks like he has the skill set to play that position. He can drop and do some of the things in the curl flat that we ask our outside backers to do. But the biggest thing is he's got a natural pass rush to him. And, you know, again, to me, you have to attack it with no stone unturned. And the guy that's been in the CFL, we've seen guys in the past that can't wait in a row who've come in and have had some success. Well, I think it's good. I think it's good that we always take a look into how we can improve things. Again, to me, the 2 most critical things for me at this combine over the years, as I've seen, is number 1, the medical, getting the information on the durability and the medical issues, and then getting to know the people as individuals, getting to know the player as a person. Because again, through 19 years of doing this, I've been, I've evaluated where I've missed on players, and I generally miss more on the person than I miss on the player. These guys all have a particular skill set, but you miss on their passion, their ability to process information, their smarts. So to me, those are the 2 most critical pieces. Yet at the same time, we can't forget about the stuff on the field, how you judge a player's athleticism, his natural skills. So I think it's good that we look into that. You know, how many times does a guy run 40 yards, that sort of thing. I mean, I think there's things that we can look at and we can improve the process. On the older guys? You know, I think you always want the 19, 20, 21-year-old players if you can do that and grow with them. But at the same time, it comes down to the individual. I don't see any issues with a guy that's 24, 25 years old, as long as they have the right intangibles. Well, when you talk about small school guys, and we've had a lot of success with those players, is you start with height, weight, and speed. They have to have a certain talent level. Then it goes into whatever we continue to talk about. What kind of passion does he have for the game? And what I found with a lot of the small school guys that has been beneficial for us is they come in with a chip on their shoulder. They come in with a mindset and attitude where they want to prove people wrong. So whether it's Rodney Gunter or whether it's David Johnson, they have a natural talent level, but they've never been given anything. And it's, you know, one of the things too, when we signed Jared Veldier in free agency, I looked at Jared and I said, okay, here's his skill set, but he was drafted in the 3rd round out of Hillsdale College. He's never been given anything. He's a guy that's going to come in here, he's going to get this salary, and he's going to continue to play hard and not just cash the check. He's a guy that wants to prove people wrong.
Thanks, Steve.
NFL Draft Bible on location.